Welcome back to the booth, guys. That's Randy Buehler, Ben Stark, Marshall Sutcliffe. We are honored and excited to bring you the finals of the World Magic Cup. Hello and welcome to coverage of the World Magic Cup. We're in the finals. Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Hall of Famer Randy Buehler and Hall of Famer Ben Stark. Denmark versus Greece for all of it to become World Magic Cup champions.
Huge match.
This is going to be absolutely huge.
The captain on the winning team earns a spot in the World Championships.
Yes. Oh, that is absolutely true. And taking a look at our players here, we see Socrates Rosakheas. They're calling him the philosopher. And he's up against Martin Muller of Denmark. So we are underway. Mardu midrange versus Mardu midrange. We have a mirror match here in our first table.
How similar are these decks, Randy?
Very. Yeah, they have the same basic take on the format. You know, 2 Sarkons to 3 Sarkons are a little bit off. There's a couple Sorens in Miller's list that I don't see on the other side, but I mean, they're quite close.
And Soren is probably not huge in this matchup or anything.
I was going to ask you, is there a trump card that you would be looking for in there, the one that's particularly good against the other?
I don't know. There's so much removal flying around.
Right. Yeah.
It feels like
Socrates has wingmates in those spots, which is, I think, better.
Wingmate is probably better, yeah, because if you can just get an attack with some little dork and your opponent doesn't want to kill all your little guys all the time, then you can have 2 3/4 flyers that both have to be dealt with. Soren, by contrast, you make the 2/2, they kill it and hit Soren, and then that was an expensive 2/2 flyer.
All right, so similar starts for both players here. A pair of Seeker of the Ways to kick things off. It's been a long road for these teams to finally make it to the finals. We've got 3 matches going simultaneously down in the feature match area.
So this is an interesting spot, because what he really wants to do is lightning strike it and get in for 3, but he can use 3 mana instead of 2 if he plays Rabble Master, allowing him the potential to do 2 lightning strikes in the same turn next turn and use his mana more efficiently. So it's a pretty close play. I think I like the Rabble Master that he's about to cast.
Yep, you get the token. I actually think you trade resources so much in this fight that just getting that extra 1/1 Goblin is awesome. And you've got this window where Rosakheas is tapped out, so you know you're going to get a token off your Rabble Master.
Well, it is, but the token's going to get 8 by the Seeker, most likely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's...
Well, then you get 2 damage.
You get the 2 damage, right, but you get 3 damage if you Lightning Strike the Seeker. For sure, if his hand involved a few more land, he would be Lightning Striking the Seeker. It's the play that accomplishes more this turn. It's just that he can really swing the game better by using all his mana here, because if he draws 1 land, he's going to be able to do double strike next turn. I think that's the reason for this play. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with getting the token and all that,
totally.
But I think that the reason for this play is that if he draws a land next turn, he can do both lightning strikes.
Okay. So back on Socrates' plan. You know, I asked about a trump card, and I see on Twitter the Danes are saying that Muller's their trump card.
That's a good trump card.
Yeah, he's the captain of the team, despite being, I think, the youngest guy on the team. He's definitely a teenager. You know, he played 3 Pro Tours last season. You know, finished relatively highly in the Rookie of the Year race. 17th at Pro Tour Born of the Gods.
So a pretty incredible resume for a teenager.
Exactly.
Okay, so here's Hordling Outburst now for Socrates. He's going to make the 3 goblins, and he can battle here or not.
Yeah, he's probably not going to attack because the Seeker can eat the 1/1 from Rabble Master, if nothing else. He kind of wants to attack because it's a 3/3 lifelink, but I think there's more value in basically eating tokens than in doing damage. And he draws a tap land, so he's not going to be able to use both lightning strikes.
But he is going to be able to use 1. So Seeker of the Way falls to Lightning Strike, and that's going to clear up some type of attack here. At least the token, yes, also the Seeker of the Way. Remember, it's a 3/3 now with lifelink, so if Socrates wants to get around it, he has to block with all 3. He does just that. Seeker of the Way hits the bin. 3 life gain for Muller.
That play was by no means wrong, but I'm not sure if I love that play. His other option would have been to just attack with all 3 and let Socrates block and have a lightning strike in the way. If the Rabble Master wasn't blocked by the Seeker, then the strike would clear out the 1/1s, and if it was blocked by the Seeker, unless he also triple blocked the opposing Seeker, Martin's Seeker, then the Lightning Strike would have been really good. I guess that Martin's play is right, because if he does find that perfect block, then this is a better play. Then this does accomplish more. So, I mean, Martin kind of giving his opponent credit and just making the play that prevents him. You know, it doesn't give Socrates the option to make a mistake, but it does the most, assuming Socrates would play perfectly.
Okay, and that is generally how you should play, right? You should assume that your opponent's going to find the right line.
Generally, yes, but this was a very complicated board with tons of creatures, so I might have gone for the blowout or gone for substantial value by giving my opponent the opportunity to make an imperfect block there.
Okay, well, here comes Sarkhan, the Dragon Speaker, to start piling on damage here. Gets in there for 5, and so far Martin Muller has been 1 permanent ahead for the duration here.
It's 16-10 on the life totals now. I think we're having some technical difficulties. We'll get those updated for you as soon as we can.
There we go, 16-10 in favor of Martin. And Socrates has to find a way. I mean, one thing about Sarkhan, that is a lot of loyalty.
Right, he doesn't live that often, but when he does, he can end the game pretty quickly.
Yeah, 5 loyalty is pretty tough to get through. And here comes a Rabble Master to start chipping away at that, but that just ensures that Sarkhan's going to get to attack again, or maybe even take down the Rabble Master, however Martin wants to play this. Socrates down to 10 here, though.
Yeah, I imagine we'll just see a Lightning Strike on the Rabble Master, an attack for 5, and another Hordling Outburst.
It's a pretty nice turn.
Right, well, by just see, I mean, Martin will be really pressing the gas pedal here.
Wow, he has had a blazing start to this match. Looks like he is in the tank here, though.
This is a wonderful turn for Martin. I mean, with so much ammunition, he obviously wants to double check through the, even if he already knows that's the best line, he wants to think through. Even if that's a clear best line, he wants to think through other lines because he has so many options that he may have come up with a play that just locks Socrates out of the game. For example, he has second Sarkin in hand, so he's going with this line knowing that if he can on-tap with that Sarkin in play, or even just on-tap in a position where Socrates is tapped out or doesn't have a flyer, he can go end-of-turn Lightning Strike you, on-tap Sarkin attack. So, this could even be better play than the one I suggested. It might do slightly less on board, but it basically could lock Socrates completely out of the game.
Okay, block, trade a couple of tokens off. That's going to keep Sarkhan out of range of most burn.
But it doesn't keep Lightning Strike Sarkin out of range.
All right, we got a match update, well, a game update from our table B. Bill Chronopoulos with Teamer Midrange has taken the first game from Thomas Enevoldsen with that blue-black control list as we see this one come to an end here. Martin Muller off to a great start. Really just got ahead, stay ahead, and never let Socrates get his foot in the door. He takes his first game as well. So one game on either side. So Denmark has a game to their credit, so does Greece.
Great draw and a well-played game.
The Greek captain, by the way, we talked about how it's Muller who's the captain of the Danish team, came in with the most pro points, is Marios Angelopoulos, who's in the coach role.
Yes.
So they're taking a page out of the Slovak Republic's book and putting their most experienced player in the coach role.
Uh-oh. Hey, Ben.
Yeah.
You need to borrow your brain for a few minutes here. We've got a pretty nice board state set up on this game. I see a lot of hornets and a lot of birds.
Can we call Owen or something?
Yeah, this is one of those crazy board states where the
Hornet tokens are holding off the Wingmate rocks.
Yes. So what's going on the ground? The Wingmate rocks are holding off the 2/2 zombies.
It looks.
Yeah,
So
there's
it's a
whip.
stalemate.
It looks like a stalemate.
I'm not so sure. I see Whip of Erebos in play for a penny.
That's not going to get
Panagiotis
any
Savidis.
creatures through, though.
Not necessarily an even game with a whip in play.
Yeah, I just meant, is somebody attacking? And it looks like no.
Maybe the Death Touchers can attack.
Probably a few of them can poke because you need one back to stop each 3/4.
Yeah.
Because that's not really a favorable race.
Oh, but then they were paused coming up with more Hornet Queen minions.
More insect tokens, okay. Because this board needed 5 more permanents on it.
This board is pretty even
Wow.
sans whip, but if this game just goes and goes and goes, I mean, every Hornet Queen, every Sidisi, I mean, you're talking about whipping those back into play. I mean, this board will become overwhelmingly in the favor of the whip player as time goes on.
Well, you mean as the player with the whip, because they're actually both the whip player, though different takes on the deck. Abzan whip versus Sidisi whip. And so, there's also the opportunity, of course, for the other player to find their own copy. This is the grindiest mid-range type stuff that we see in Standard these days.
This is a lot of fun. This makes me want to run out of this booth and go grab my Standard deck.
I do think Sidisi Whip has the advantage here, even if it didn't. Like, if they were stalemated, if Sidisi Whip didn't have the whip already in play, that deck is just more set up for the late game.
Right. That deck's more combo-ish, let's say.
Right.
And the Abzan deck is better at playing a normal game.
Okay. Well, here goes Whip of Erebos, and look at his graveyard.
Yeah.
So
you
many
whip out
options.
a Sidisi, which gets you 2 triggers, right?
Yes.
One for coming
2.
into play, and then 1 for attacking. So, oh, look at that. Let's fill up the graveyard with another Hornet Queen.
Right. So even if it was a stalemate, only a temporary one, as Sidisi Whip is going to turn this game.
Wow, look at the top of his library here, too. Does he not attack, or does he attack?
Well, if he attacks, he puts Doomwake in the graveyard.
That's right, but then he doesn't get to
Good
keep
enough.
it around.
I don't
It's
think
good enough to kill all the tokens.
I don't think I'd attack.
Really? You'd rather draw it?
I mean, if
It
you,
also
the
kills
attack?
all the tokens when you draw it.
Yeah, he declines his attack.
I mean,
It's
if you
going to remove
if you
itself from the game.
if you have an enchantment in your graveyard to whip in a play, now you get to -2 to everything, and you want to make your opponent deal with Doomwake Giant. I mean, sure, you're going to kill all the tokens, but you might kill all the tokens now, and then you might kill them all again later after a second Hornet Queen, or after that Hornet Queen gets whipped back out.
Wow, he's got a Courser in his hand as well, it seems.
Yeah, you really want the value from all the -1/-1s you can do out of Doomwake. I mean, you can see how many creatures are in play, so that's going to be a huge swing.
Yeah, so it looks like Simon Nielsen says, well, the writing's on the wall for these poor insects, so I'm going to attack with those. He's also going to send the Hornet Queen, and it looks like the Elvish Mystic's going to stay home, but it's probably not long for this world either.
And this attack is just because he knows those guys are going to die next turn anyway.
Writing's on the wall. There's a Doomwake Giant just looming on top of the library there for Sidisi. A pair of Satyr Wayfinders in hand for Nielsen just isn't getting him where he needs to go here. And there's that Doomwake Giant drawn into hand. Urborg. It's going to get him a little bit of extra value from his own Courser.
Yeah, this is a stalemate no more.
Yeah, that is just the blowout right there. So everything's going to get -2/-2, meaning that the Wingmate Rock and friends are going to be shrunk down to 1/2s, which means that the zombies can then attack as well profitably.
Right.
Doomwake Giant, trigger this. Tap that for green. Scoop those up.
And we should definitely see all of that. He should play Courser, put this land into play, give the second -1/-1, and then attack with every single creature he has. Maybe Sans Wayfinder or not, that doesn't matter. I'd probably send it, but either way.
I call this the no math alpha attack. You just turn them all sideways and make them figure it out.
Yeah, right-click on Magic Online, attack with all my creatures.
That's the one.
And there's nothing to even be afraid of, because if your opponent had removal, he would have already killed the whip. He wouldn't be allowing this to happen. And all of Simon's creatures are -2/-2.
Yeah.
So they're way, way inferior to all of Panagiotis' creatures.
I mean, how much life is Sidisi going to gain here?
Exactly. I wouldn't have held the Hornets back like he did, because he doesn't have to worry about something like the whip dying, because the whip would have already been killed. There's no way that Simon would have let him have the whip in play on his turn with the ability to whip things back. He might be being slightly conservative here, just because it's the only way he could conceivably lose.
Yeah, I mean, they're good blockers for the four Wingmate, the 4/3/4 flyers.
Right. He is behind in life.
He
was behind until this
in life.
lifelink trigger.
Right, which is why you could send them. If somehow the whip died, that could be the only conceivable way he could lose this game if he had alpha and somehow the whip died. I don't even know if that's possible in the main deck, But I think he should have attacked with everything. But I think Panagiotis just feels like I can't possibly lose. I'm not sending these 1/1s also, which is the right mindset in the dark. Possibly not the right mindset when you know what your opponent's playing.
Okay. Huge attack there. And it basically flopped their life totals. Now, Panagiotis is the one who's over 20, with Nielsen dropping down to 12 here. And Nielsen's trying to find something. Looks like he's kicking things off with that Seder Wayfinder.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Nielsen's deck list now, and it doesn't look like he has any utter ends in the main. So he actually had no instant way to remove that whip. So, I mean, yeah, Panagiotis should have attacked with everything, but just playing a bit conservative because he's in such an overwhelmingly favored position. And that is the general right mindset, even if it wasn't the correct play at this moment.
Okay, we're also going to run our other match. You see it in the upper right-hand side of your screen. This is game 2 of the one that we watched earlier, which is Miller versus Rosickeas, and they're underway there. Mardu mid-range mirror match, and it looks like the first. This is not good for the.
First play was a Hordling outburst. Second play was discard for having 8 cards in my hand.
He just cannot buy a bucket here, and he is going to need to find lands very quickly. If he does, he could get right back in it. You maybe play his own Hordling outburst to try to mitigate the damage. But we saw this in game 1 when he was hitting his land drops. He just could not seem to get out from behind the early start that Martin got out to. And if he doesn't find lands, that one's going to end very quickly.
Yeah, there's a sip of hemlock joke here somewhere. I can't quite find it, though.
Thankfully for Socrates, I don't think it's in anybody's list here.
Yeah, so this is the turn. If he does draw a land, it's definitely possible he can claw back into it, Socrates.
For Socrates, okay.
Yeah, if he doesn't draw land this turn and that Chandra starts getting zeroed and an additional thing gets added to the board, realistically, they're on to game 2.
All right, let's jump. Let's avert our eyes back down to the lower left. Has anything changed here noticeably for you, Ben?
Nope. There's still Doomwake Giant in play. There's still Whip in play.
Yeah, these matches get decided a lot before they actually end. If one guy gets a whip going for a couple of turns, he just gains so much incremental advantage that you're going to win the game eventually. It just often takes a couple of attacks and takes a little while to sort of finish knocking the other guy's life total down to 0. I mean, I feel like this is the same board it was when we showed up. It's just one guy had a whip and the other guy didn't.
Yeah. Okay.
The other card that can have that kind of effect in these matchups, by the way, is Farika. If you want to count like whip plus Farika, anybody who ever has that combination in one of these matchups is just going to win.
All right, so Sidisi looking to be in great spot there to finish this game off down there. So let's look back up in the upper right-hand corner where another discard happened there for Socrates, but then he did find a land. Unfortunately, his first play of the game is just a Goblin Rabble Master here, and he's already facing down 3 tokens, Chandra, and 5 untapped mana with 5 cards in hand for his opponent. So still significantly behind here.
Yeah, it looks like we'll see ping the token, and then he has options here. He could, kill
chain some rocks up.
Right, kill the Rabble Master and make a Butcher maybe if he has that in hand. It doesn't look like he does. Or he could just cast something else.
Maybe he's leaving up a Crackling Doom active mana here.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense.
This way, almost regardless of the threat that Rosickeas plays, he's going to be able to just end step, kill it, hit you for 2, crack back for 4, and Rosickeas is going to smartly play around that. He's going to
play the chains pretty good.
It only sort of plays around it.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't at all. So there's Crackling Doom, 2 damage. You have no creatures, and Muller is in turbo mode here as he finds Sarkhan to finish the match. Actually,
wow. Score 1 for Denmark.
So 1 match down for Denmark, and.
Yeah, we said Martin Muller was their trump. He wants to go to Worlds next year. He is the captain. He gets invited to the World Championships if Denmark can win one of these last 2 matches.
Wow, for a young guy like that, what a great start to his Magic career if he can make that happen. And Denmark just took one massive step in that direction by winning the first of 3 matches. Now all they have to do is win one of the other 2 to secure their spots as World Magic Cup champions. So back on our main match, We have Simon Nielsen with Abzan Whip versus Panagiotis Savidis with Sidisi Whip. In this game it's just a complete mess. Look, I mean, this board state is absurd by almost any standards.
It's a mess.
But we know that Panagiotis Savidis is significantly ahead due to the existence of just one card. That little Whip of Erebos sitting down there has put him way ahead.
Right. If Nielsen had a Whip also, this would still be tough for him because of the Doomwake Giant, but we could start construing things that he could do to try and get back into this. But without the recursive ability of Whip, his creatures are just dying, and Panagiotis is just making more and more creatures every turn that goes by.
See quite a few cards in hand for Savidis as well, so he's got plenty of resources to work with. So what does a game look like where Simon wins this game? Like, is it like sequences of draws that are all perfect? Is it just finding a Whip and all of a sudden he's back in it? What does it look like?
I mean, he needs to work through that Doomwake in the yard, so I guess...
Does he play Farika?
He plays Banishing Light, so if he can get rid of the Whip in play, then that Doomwake doesn't have any more ability to impact this game. Is that
Yes.
Soul of Theros?
It is Soul of Theros. How does that change things?
Well, it gives him a lot of life. Certainly not going to win the game, but it's a big life swing. The problem is life is not really one of the more valuable resources in this type of matchup. As Randy pointed out, incremental advantage is really what's going to determine the winner here, not life swings. That's why I was saying for him to claw back into this game, I mean, he would really need to Banishing Light the Whip.
Yeah, the first strike is actually more relevant there than the lifelink because it'll trump the Death Touch on those insects.
Right. I mean, this has a huge impact this turn, but the problem is Panagiotis is just going to whip back Hornet Queens and Doomwake Giants and, whatever he needs to whip back. So even though this turn is going to be a big swing in Simon's favor, we know that Panagiotis will just get right back to, incremental advantage, right back to producing more things per turn. Simon Nielsen can.
Simon's life total is going to be huge here, too, because he gained all the double Wingmate Rock triggers, plus the +2/+2. First strike and lifelink.
Oh, you see him at 50.
He's at 50 now.
He's at 50. And that's exciting. Once again, I still think the Whip will return this, but it gives Simon some time, maybe, to find Banishing Light for Whip.
And then maybe a Whip of his own,
And then
too.
maybe a Whip of his own or something of that nature, yeah.
All right.
I don't think it's on the table yet, but there's also a non-zero chance when your life total starts to hit 50 and you still have a bunch of things going that you can deck a Sidisi player. Because, they don't have any way to shuffle that graveyard back in or anything, and they spend a lot of time. Yeah, they spend a lot of times drawing cards and milling themselves and things like that, putting lands into play with Courser, milling 4 cards with Wayfinder, milling cards with Sidisi.
Soul of Innistrad here has been activated as well. No shortage of resources really on either side here.
Yeah,
51 to 28.
Panagiotis with less life, but a lot more resources. So Simon has to either close the recursion, getting rid of the Whip, or he's got to start thinking about decking Panagiotis or something of that nature. Because it's not exactly like Panagiotis is about to die. Simon may be at 51, but Panagiotis is at a comfortable 31 himself, and he hasn't even attacked yet this turn.
No kidding.
Yeah, Soul brought back this Hornet Queen and a Doomwake Giant and a Sidisi.
Oh my
Panagiotis
goodness.
is just reloaded.
He's going to get right back to rebuilding this board.
And this was a hard cast Hornet Queen, right? So it's going to get whipped back at some point down the line as well.
That is the plan.
Goodness. For those of you at home that love these grindy, attrition-y matchups, welcome to heaven, because you have arrived.
Yeah, Simon's a little on the young side as players in this tournament go, but he's been a regular on the European GP circuit for a while. Dozen GPs played. Rich was actually telling me they have a lot of interesting schools at different academies with different themes in Denmark, and the school that Simon Nielsen went to for, what we would call high school, had a Magic club that sends like 10, 20 players to all the GPs they can get to.
Wow.
So he was like, as part of his high school club, going off traveling to GPs. And now he's graduated at this point, but keeps going to the GPs.
That's awesome to be able to get that kind of experience.
In that club.
Yeah,
seriously, right?
To get that kind of experience when you're so young.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, to be able to develop a high-level understanding of Magic, going to Grand Prix all throughout high school. and your school is encouraging you, instead of asking for permission maybe to miss school, the school is saying, yeah, go to Grand Prix, play Magic, develop your mind.
I was too busy playing basketball to think how good could I have been at Magic.
It would have damaged your chances at getting into the NBA, though.
It's true.
Like them, I mean, I did play Magic when I was in high school, but it was more as I was describing. You know, if I didn't have a test that Friday or something, then maybe I would take off to travel to a Grand Prix. It certainly wasn't my high school encouraging me to, you know, play Magic and travel to Grand Prix. They weren't against it. I mean, we didn't have a Magic Club really or anything like that.
I bet you that Magic Club is watching Simon right now,
Oh, yeah.
cheering him on. Okay, Siege Rhino now for Simon Nielsen with an almost irrelevant trigger for the first time that I've seen it.
Drain you for 3. Come on, buddy.
Yeah,
We have so much going on here. Do you really care about this 3 life? Yeah.
Can we check life totals?
Oh no, they're going to check life totals. All right, well, we'll let them get this sorted out
Maybe they can just round.
to the nearest 10. So just to give you a bigger picture view, you can see it says Denmark leads 1-0 down in the lower right portion of your screen. That was Martin Muller winning his match pretty handily, 2-0 over Socrates Rosaceus. So that's put Denmark one step away from winning the World Magic Cup. In our match that you don't see that is still going on, we have Bill Chronopoulos up a game with Teamer Midrange versus Thomas Enevoldsen, who's on blue-black control. So one over to the Greek side as far as the one that's over.
And Panagiotis, a clear favorite here. Panagiotis is a clear favorite in this game. So even though Denmark is up 1-0 matches, Panagiotis, you know, looking to take a game for Greece.
So, guys, I just had an update. This match just took on an entirely new level of significance, and it is of the much higher variety. Bill Chronopoulos has won his match 2-0 over Thomas Enevoldsen. Teamer Midrange defeating blue-black control, and now this one is going to decide the World Magic
Oh,
Cup.
wow. So,
yes, this is game 1.
Right, so now if Panagiotis does manage to close out this game, it'll be Greece in the driver's seat,
Yes.
up 1-0 in the deciding match.
Exactly, Ben. So this whole match is now for the World Magic Cup Championship title. Wow. You're going to see the other teammates huddled around, coaching, helping. There's a look at them now with their sweet jerseys, too, by the way. Look at that graveyard. You mentioned it a minute ago, Ben, but decking? Are we in that conversation yet, or are we not quite to that stage?
Oh, we're
of
in
the
that
game?
conversation. Whenever the life totals are 47 to 41, there's a whip still in play, and you can see the size of those graveyards. Decking is always in the conversation. The problem for Simon is Soul of Innistrad. Even if you can work through a lot of the bigger things, even all the production out of Hornet Queens and Sidisis, with the ability to just keep replaying everything infinite times with Soul, basically, I don't think he's going to be able to do it.
Yeah, I don't think decking is relevant here because Panagiotis is just too far ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Panagiotis could be pretty far ahead, you know, without the Soul, and you could say to yourself, well, you know, he can't keep replaying all of these things. You know, they do go away after they get whipped in. You know, I can work through a lot of things. But with the Soul of Innistrad, he can buy back all the dead creatures. He could play several in one turn to wipe Simon's board with the Doomwake Giants. Simon could do something like hold removal to mess that up, but then Panagiotis will just use the Soul to just rebuy it all and try it again in a turn.
Wow.
So I can't really see it coming to decking.
Wow, replacement whip sitting on top of his library now, too.
Yeah.
There's a Hornet Queen, though, off the top for Simon Nielsen. So he's going to get to bolster his defenses somewhat here as well. Still no whip in sight, though, for Nielsen.
I mean, the Hornet Queen tokens are just going to die to any enchantment.
Yeah, for Panagiotis to lose this game, he would really have to be through a lot of his resources. If too many of his creatures are exiled already with Whip so that they can't be bought back with Soul of Innistrad, and there isn't enough left in his library, But yeah.
That could be huge right there. There's a Doomwake Giant on top, and we'll also notice that Sidisi has drawn a second copy of Whip. Remember, he can't have two in play, but he can certainly cast the second one as an enchantment to get a trigger off of Doomwake. And if he's got two Doomwakes, he could potentially clear the entire board of Simon Nielsen and kill him in one shot here.
Right, and Simon doesn't have any real recursive ability out, so when his board gets wiped, that's going to be the game.
I think he's going to take 8 here, as he's chump blocking the soul with his Sylvan Carry added. So things moving pretty swiftly for Greece here.
Yeah, these decks really went deep. There was a time in Standard where there was a decent amount of aggro decks, even like just Jeskai aggro and Mantis Rider and Burn and whatnot. So you couldn't really afford to play stuff like Soul of Innistrad in these decks. Maybe one in the sideboard or 2 in the sideboard, not in the 0 in the main. Right now, with everybody on all these different variants of Sidisi Whip, Abzan Whip, Abzan Midrange, Black-Green Constellation, it's like whoever went the deepest, that's the player who probably wins the game.
You know, that is how you feel playing these decks. I've played a few of these Whip decks in Standard myself, and when you get in these mirrors, your mind starts racing to, well, how can I go even further over the top? Like,
Right.
What's the thing that I need to just completely trump? Because you have all the mana you could ever want. You just want the one card that puts you so much further ahead. It turns out it's Soul of Innistrad.
Right, if you're a player at home looking to this Magic World Cup for Standard decks, thinking, you know, what should I take to my PTQ next weekend, or what should I play at Friday Night Magic? A very aggressive deck is probably a good place to be at right now in Standard to punish these incredibly slow, incredibly powerful decks. This is game 1. They haven't sideboarded, and look at the cards in play.
Yes, this is insane.
Multiple Soul of Innistrads,
Yep.
multiple Hornet Queens. This deck cannot fare well against 1 and 2 mana creatures and burn spells.
Yeah, 1 mana 2/1s might be in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, Fire Drinker Satyr is sort of itching to get off the bench and get in the game here. Here comes that second copy of Doomwake, and here's that play we discussed a minute ago with the whips coming. And is this... All right, he's not scooping up his permanents. He's just sweeping
those are the
away
ones that
most of
died.
them. Yes.
Yeah.
A lone 0-1 Siege Rhino stands in the way here for Denmark.
I know this is an untimed match, but I don't know what Simon is really plotting at this point.
Yeah, he'd need something like Dune Blast or something in his main just to even not die, and even then, the inevitability seems to be intact here for Sidisi. The question that I have here is this 36? Nope.
Triggers.
He just
Sidisi
mashes
triggers.
them together.
He's got to
Pushes
parse
them all
the
in.
Sidisi attack. But
He should trigger the Sidisi, but it won't matter. So Simon Nielsen does, in fact, concede here with 1 billion damage on the stack, and that brings Panagiotis Sidisi and his Greece team 1 game
championship point.
away from winning the World Magic Cup.
I'm sorry, but that was awesome.
That was just sweet. And you know what, Ben? You're going to get more of that. I don't think that this changes much post-board.
No, they're just going to bring in ways to fight some of the more powerful cards and more powerful cards. A quick look at Simon Nielsen's sideboard. He's got End Hostilities, Reclamation Sage, Doomwake Giants.
Yes, please. All of the above.
Yeah, another Whip, which would take him from 2 to 3. A Dune Blast, which is clearly excellent in the matchup. 2 Thoughtseize, a Read the Bones. So
There is enough there to definitely change the makeup of this match.
Well,
the fact that the sweepers come in, this is the match they're there for. Is
Right,
for
no,
the,
they're
the
coming
other
in.
grindy match.
I think that he'll gain some substantial percentage points in the matchup, but I think we're going to see a long, grindy matchup. You know, I don't think they're switching into aggro decks or something like that.
No, but the fact that they can sweep the board means that it isn't just incremental advantage that's permanent. Like, the incremental advantage can be reset with a sweeper like an End Hostilities.
So you're saying they might have to think about not dumping everything out and not always pressing the advantage as much as possible.
Precisely. I mean, on the other side, the Sidisi whip deck is not playing white, so can't get to End Hostilities. I wonder if Ashiok comes in here. I'm sure the Farika God of Affliction comes in. Farika, the fact that Farika can, at instant speed, remove the thing you're trying to whip back is an incredible interaction in this matchup. Farika is sort of the next trump.
I know that Josh Utter-Layton and Shahar Shanhar played this deck, Sidisi Whip, in Worlds, and one of the reasons they played blue and not black-green Constellation like PGO was for Ashiok. They felt like Ashiok was really strong in these kind of matchups.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the trump. So both players think they have trumps in the sideboard. The question is basically who's better. The Greeks get to go for 3 Ashioks and a Pharika, and the Danes get to go for a couple of End Hostilities and a couple of Reclamation Sages.
And a Dune Blast.
And a Dune Blast, yeah. 3 Sweepers, a couple more Doom Wakes, a couple of Reclamation Sages. I don't think this is a Nissa matchup.
No, probably not. There's just Nissa gets gone over the top of in this matchup.
Yeah, Sidisi can also bring in 2 Disdainful Strokes.
Yeah, I like the
like they might be
Disdainful
good.
Strokes, sure.
Yeah, this is a bit of a preview of the individual world championships that are coming up this afternoon too. The Sidisi Whip deck that Panagiotis Savidis is playing. I don't know. I don't have the
Yamamoto.
I don't have the list memorized. That both Shahar and Yamamoto have 2 different takes on this in the top 4. Right, Shahar has the Ashiok's main. Yamamoto does not. But this is in the same space.
But this is a preview. It's not card for card, but pretty similar to the top 4 matchup between Chapin and Yamamoto.
Yes.
Sidisi Whip versus Abzan.
Right. Though I don't know, does Chapin have whips? I thought he was more just Abzan mid-range. He sort of had so much success with it that he has not been involved in the escalating arms race of going over the top and going over the top by more.
I think you're right. I think he's just Abzan mid-range.
See the players down in the feature match area conferring with each other about the post sideboards, but they all know what's on the line here.
It's a big deal.
It could be a game to decide the tournament here.
Yeah, it's a big deal for all of these guys, of course. I mean, being
A
the
lot of
champion,
national pride.
right? Being the champion for your country is what I was gonna say is extra special. It's even big, well, not bigger than the whole country, but it's especially big for the team captains because how awesome is getting to play in the World Championship?
Honestly, it's not as awesome as winning this event. I mean, it's nice. I think it's gravy. It'll feel good a year from now. But I mean, the Greeks, they have not really had a signature Magic result. And I mean, that's a country that does take a lot of pride in their national identity and, you know, has had the run. Again, I think the 2004 Euro Championships, the run that the Greek soccer team made 10 years ago to just come out of nowhere and win that Euro Championships is something that I know the country is still proud of, that the soccer world still looks back on as this amazing accomplishment by the Greeks. I see a lot of parallels there.
Right. So, I mean, extra special to win this tournament because you're kind of doing it, you know, for your whole country.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I'm sure they're at home watching on as well. I've been getting a decent amount of tweets, specifically from the Denmark side of things. But I see them on Twitter. If you look at there's a hashtag in the upper right side, MTGWMC. People are tagging that for their tweets about the tournament, and you can see quite a few people cheering on their countries there. It's great stuff. This is one of the only tournaments that we get all year that has this type of vibe. It's a unique thing.
Now, do you think the Greeks have gained much advantage from the Theros set? It's another fitting aspect of this Greek run.
It is their time to make a run. Yes,
right?
Yes.
Seems like the right time.
All right, what is the... Oh, that is not an opening hand. That is a maybe we should change one sideboard decision.
Looks like maybe they took a Caryatid out, which I like with all the sweepers coming in.
Yeah.
Speed isn't really the name of the game here, right?
Nope. Nope, not at all.
You know, you're not going to be... It's not about being the first one with the whip. It's about having a whip and sticking it.
I think it's a tough spot for the Danes. You know, the sweepers are good if you're the one who goes further over the top, but it's really the Greeks list who goes further over the top, I think.
I agree. Yeah, no, I think the Greeks are both up a game and advantaged in the matchup.
And you can see them taking their time sideboarding because there's so much to consider. Exactly how much you want of each card, exactly what you want your deck to look like. This isn't the kind of matchup where the sideboarding is, oh, I'm going to bring in my 2 silver bullets against your deck. They're basically playing a similar but different deck to what they played in Game 1. They're possibly sideboarding, you know, 8 cards each, 10 cards, what have you. So they know that their deck is going to be a little different. So they have to think about how their new deck is going to play out, what cards are going to become important, maybe what cards become a little less important, and be ready for this like new game of Magic that they're going to play post-sideboard.
Yeah, figuring out what to take out is tricky, too. Because it's not like they have a whole bunch of removal spells in their main deck. I mean, these guys kind of expected a grindy field anyway, so they're not full of anti-aggro cards.
And we were talking about how this favors the Greeks, and here's Simon taking a mulligan.
Yeah, this could be bad. Although,
Wow.
Given the way that these games seem to have played out, they go for so long. You got to figure that it's not like he's going to get pounced on here, right? Like if you mulligan to 5 or 6, of course you don't want to start that way. But it doesn't look like these decks have the firepower to really just bury you.
No, you can get a perfectly reasonable 6-card hand, but your odds of sort of having to keep a bad draw. Like we saw the game Owen Turnwald won on camera in round 12, where his opponent mulled the 6, kept Forest for his Nykthos, and just never drew black mana.
Right.
Right. That was a similar. Wasn't the same matchup, but I mean it was similar in that it usually goes to this long grindy space.
But I mean, Owen was able to close that game out mighty quickly.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah. I mean the odds of having a truly lopsided game go up with each mulligan.
Sure. Okay, so let's see if Nielsen has a keeper. He does.
It's a good 6.
It's a good 6 as well. Okay, so we are underway here in game 2. We're tied up at a match apiece, so this is going to be the decider. Either this game or next, depending on how things go. Greece and Panagiotis Savvidis with Sidisi Whip up a game over Denmark and Simon Nielsen. But a good start here from Simon, as he has not missed a land drop, made a Courser of Crewfix, and even has a Sylvan Caryatid so that he can continue to add to the board. And
wow,
he's even got a Wingmate Rock in his hand. I think he needs an untapped mana source to make it work. But
Savvidis has yet to make a play. 3 turns, just land, go, land, go, land, go. It's holding up Disdainful Stroke, which is going to be big if we do get a Wingmate Rock here.
And he's got a Sultai Charm as well. Yeah. So if we don't get a Wingmate Rock, we'll just see that Courser get Sultai Charmed in a turn.
And we're not going to see a Wingmate Rock here because he's not hitting the mana. I think he's just going to play a Satyr Wayfinder.
Sure.
Yeah.
So even though a good start by Simon, I think Panagiotis is still the favorite here. End of Simon's turn, he'll be able to take out the Courser, leaving the only creatures in play as a Caryatid and a Wayfinder. Oh no, he does have the land for the Wingmate Rock. Granted,
oh, he did have it. Sorry, I didn't see that. Wow.
No biggie, because we know Panagiotis has the Disdainful Stroke anyway.
Right, and I think that Simon now knows that as well as there's a land being cracked here.
What Panagiotis does not have is land. He's stuck on 3. I mean, he's got a Sultai Charm. He's still having to gate after he casts this Disdainful Stroke. Murderous Cut is live now with the counterspell and the fetch land.
So he can.
It's not like he's 3 is enough that he can operate for a couple of turns, but I mean he wants to build up toward the Doomwakes and the Hornet Queens.
Right, but when you're under virtually no pressure and all you need to do is draw land, that's a good position.
I think Courser of Crewfix gives pressure. It's not pressure on your life total, but it is.
Well, I think he's just going to Sultai Charm the Courser of Crewfix.
Yeah, he can just kill it.
Especially what he should probably do is pass the turn, and if Simon has a land on top, then you would have killed it. But now that Simon has a second Courser on top, there's no reason to kill it.
Wow.
There is that land on top.
Yeah, but Simon has a second Courser,
so
you can't stop him from putting lands into play off the top of his library now.
It looks like he's going to interrupt the flow here, but it won't actually do what he wants it to do. There's a negate in hand for Panagiotis Savvidis. I guess it does prevent 1 life.
Exactly. If he's going to kill the Courser, you may as well not give him the second point of life.
Right, and he's got the Murderous Cut, so he can actually kill both Coursers, not right now, but he may be considering, okay, I'll Sultai Charm it all on top and I'll kill the other Courser.
And there's another land on top now, and every land counts here for Simon. He does have a Hornet Queen in hand.
Yeah, so I imagine we'll see Wayfinder because he doesn't want that land as his draw step for next turn.
And he wouldn't mind having it in his hand.
Right, so it's perfect. It's perfect to play the Wayfinder. The only reason not to would be sweepers, but I don't think Panagiotis really has those. I think that's Simon's game.
Right, that's right.
Seeing the Wingmate Rock, I'm not even 100% sure if Simon brought in all those sweepers.
Soul of Theros gets built into the yard.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that Simon realized that Panagiotis' deck is the one that goes over the top better, and he may have brought in only the Dune Blast.
So he's the beatdown?
Yeah, I can't say for sure, but there's not great synergy with End Hostilities and Wingmate Rock.
It's a good point.
Yeah, I think Simon may have realized that he's the beatdown, and he'll definitely bring in Dune Blast, but I think if I were Simon, I think I might have left those End Hostilities in the sideboard.
I like this line. He does. He's going to lose the long game.
Right.
He's just not set up to be the truly long game. Not nearly as well set up as Sidisi Whip. So great. If you understand your role in Standard, there's huge advantage to be found just from properly identifying your role and knowing how to sideboard.
All right, so it looks like Panagiotis, though, uses the Murderous Cut to kill one of the Coursers, but decides that Doomwake Giant's the way he wants to go, leaving that Sultai Charm in his hand and allowing his opponent to keep a Courser of Crewfix on the battlefield. In
And
the
cracks a
meantime,
fetch land rather than draw a fetch land.
and instead of drawing the other land, remember he found that Llanowar Waste last turn, so he's hitting his land drop either way this turn.
He's doing his best to,
Draw
not
spells.
have land. Yeah, to not have lands on his library during his draw step. His deck's just not really cooperating with that right now.
No, he keeps finding more and more lands, but we are going to see. Well, I should ask instead. Are we going to see Hornet Queen this turn?
I don't know, because Doomwake Giant kind of trumps Hornet Queen.
That's what I was thinking too.
And he doesn't know. We know that Sidisi has a second Doomwake Giant. So if he does play Hornet Queen, he's going to have no permanents in play.
Wow. Okay.
That's a much better draw phase
It's a
than
little better.
Windswept Heath.
That is a great draw phase.
And is he going to run that out here so that he can kind of play around that Doomwake Giant?
He might. What are his options? He has Hornet Queen or Whip, and he has the land to cast it?
Yes, those are his options.
I don't know.
Of course, it's a lot less troublesome if his Hornet Queen dies now because he can get it
exactly.
back.
Well,
He'll
the queen,
probably-
queen here is a lot more mana efficient.
Yeah, he'll probably play the Queen now, because if his opponent answers the Queen, he's going to still be able to play the Whip. It's not like he's not worried
he can
about it.
If he gets a
Activate it if
land
he
next
hits a
turn,
land, yeah.
exactly, he's one land away from having 8 to go Whip and activate it.
And
next
remember,
turn.
we can see that
Yes.
Sidisi has the second Doomwake Giant in
Oh,
hand.
man.
But it's not that likely. It's likely that Sidisi would have, say, an enchantment in hand. It's not that likely that it's a second Doomwake. So for Simon's perspective, it's like, all right, if he's got an enchantment, I'll lose the tokens. I'll still have the Hornet Queen and the Courser and the Caryatid. I'll play the Whip next turn. From our perspective, it's like, no, don't play the Queen. He's going to play Doomwake and blow up all your stuff.
And I think that's what's going to happen.
You know what? He's gonna leave up Negate and Sultai Charm instead. I actually like this line.
Oh, it's awesome because he's going to make that play anyway just next turn.
Exactly.
And he's never going to allow Whip to come into play.
Precisely.
But there is a Thoughtseize here,
Kind of a curveball.
which was sitting
It was on top of the library.
So he is going to protect his hand with negate there, I suppose. He's kind of forced to negate
Oh,
the
100%
Thoughtseize,
he's
so-
negating the Thoughtseize. That's automatic.
But it means
So-
he's also leaving up Sultai Charm for the Whip,
Right.
which he saw him draw, right? It came out. He knows what card Simon drew. 'Cause
Right.
Courser.
So this is a nice play.
Yeah. Tapping out for Doomwake, Whip would have resolved. Instead, he gets to negate the Thoughtseize, and then if Whip is played, he's got the Sultai Charm for it.
Well, actually, let's say oh, okay, because if he had Doomwaked on his last turn, you wouldn't be scared of Whip necessarily because you could still on top and Sultai Charm it, but he would have gotten Thoughtseize also,
Yeah.
taking the Sultai Charm.
Leaving Whip
the
in
Whip.
play and negate in hand is not the way you want this to line up.
Right, and although that might still be a favorable position, he's basically closing out the game this way.
Right, so is this the Soul of Theros being activated here? It's 16
Wow.
damage.
So I don't know if he considered that.
What?
Block. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Is he dead?
No, he's got the Sultai Charm.
He's got a Sultai Charm,
Wait,
so
but he has
can
to take
kill
one.
the Hornet
No,
Queen.
it's still 13. He has to take one to cast it, right?
Mana
Oh, you're
Confluence.
right. He drops to 12, 4, 8, 12.
So he's
3, 6,
is
9,
he
12.
dead from Xaxes?
He is. Wow. Huge oversight there from Sidisi. You know, he didn't do the math when he factored in the Soul of Theros. And game 3?
Yeah. Looks like the
Wow.
Doomwake Giant line may have been a little better.
Yep. Turns out life total matters sometimes.
Yeah, after that last game, I can't blame him for not thinking about life total. It was 50 to 41 at one point in the last game.
Yeah.
That's-
And you know what? Credit to Mueller, who's like, I'm the beatdown.
Yeah.
I just need to deal damage before Sidisi Whip can set up its late game. And he did. Soul of Theros was the overrun he needed.
Holy smokes.
What a crazy game.
Soul of Theros just sort of hanging out in the graveyard. Don't
I
mind
forgot
me.
about it.
I did too. And then bang.
Yeah, I had forgotten about that soul as well.
I noticed it when it spilled over.
And it was the mana confluence
Sure.
that did that last damage.
Yeah, it's funny because if he does go to exactly one, he does on tap and lay that second Doomwake. I don't know if
Yeah.
he wins or loses that game, but he's not dead just if he goes to one.
Yeah, if he had played the second Doomwake, there would have been no attackers except the Courser.
Right, and it's a whole different game because then we do see the thoughts. He's the
But the whip
Sultai
comes-
Charm,
the whip
play the whip,
resolves.
right, and then he's got double Doomwake in play, so he's in a good position.
Yep.
But Whip starts to bring back Hornet Queens and
Yeah,
Wingmate
yeah.
Rocks. We see an entirely different game.
Well, the game we saw was pretty
Mueller
incredible.
might still win.
Wow, that was insane. I am in shock right now that just happened, and we are now going to game 3 here. So this is it. We get to play one game of Magic the Gathering, and it will decide our World Magic Cup champions.
I'm trying to look through his library right now as the camera is showing it. I kind of like to see if those end hostilities are in or not. I think that Simon has the right idea of being the beatdown in this matchup.
Yeah.
You don't go over the top of Sidisi, Whip, Soul of Innistrad. I like Banishing Light. You know, you remove their key threats while you're attacking. He's got that set aside as something maybe he's considering taking out. I find that weird. I wouldn't take out Banishing Light. I don't think. It kills Whip. He's got the Souls. He's got Hornet Queens.
I didn't see any end hostilities. I
No.
think you guys have it read correctly there.
I think the Wayfinders are the card he's debating right now.
Yeah. Wayfinder, perfectly reasonable to leave in or out, but it is a body for turning on Wingmate Rock. So, I mean,
It found the Soul of Innistrad that won,
Right.
the Soul of Theros that won in the game there.
right, it's not an amazing card, obviously, but I think that's probably one that should make the main. But, you know, if you've got all these great sideboard cards, something has to go. So it looks like Simon's configuration for this deciding game 3 here will be something like, I would have the Dune Blast in. I didn't see that. I wouldn't have the End Hostilities, but, you know, Dune Blast is pretty good still, I think. But whatever, you know, he could not have it, he could have it. Certainly the Thoughtseize, which we saw, are staying in. The third Whip, Read the Bones. He's got Reclamation Sages. Do those target anything besides Whip out of Panagiotis?
Doomwake Giant.
Doomwake Giant. So those should certainly be in. Glare of Heresy, probably not, since there's no white cards. So that should be what we'll see. 2 Reclamation Sage out of him, 2 Doomwake Giant, 2 Thoughtseize, a Whip, a Reed, and maybe Dune Blast going in. And out of his deck, let's see. Spot removal isn't great, but it's not bad. And he's only got Murderous Cut and Banishing Light. So, I mean, the Banishing Lights, I think he might have set one aside, but I like them. They kill Whip. I'd be more inclined to take out Murderous Cut if I had to choose between those two.
What does that change? I want you to frame this for us from a little bit bigger of a picture perspective, Ben. Not just like, well, this card's in, this card's out. So what we're saying here is that Nielsen is trying to be the beatdown. He's
Right.
trying to be the assertive one, and he's trying to take out any card that he can that slows him down and get every single card that lets him be the aggressor in.
Right.
Okay.
That's what I think he's trying to do within reason. His deck is not a beatdown deck.
Yeah, he's kind of asking a lot of his deck, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's cards he can't take out, like Corsair of Crewfix. Even though it's not a great beatdown card, it's just a great card. But I do think he knows his role as the aggressor, not the one who wants the game, you know, to go to turn 20.
Now, if you're sitting in Grease's seat and you've seen what you've seen so far, do you have adjustments that you can make to try to be even more controlling? You start as the default control player in the matchup, but I mean, I'm assuming the sideboards can shift that even further.
Well, you'd have to have cards that line up well against Simon's threats. More often than not, it's still going to go to the late game because Simon's deck is not a good beatdown deck, even if that's a clearly identified role. So I think you're still going to want to force him to beat you that way. You're not going to want to soften your deck too much. I mean, forcing him, good for him for identifying that as his role, but that's not the role you want in this matchup.
Right.
You want to be beatdown versus Sidisi Whip if you're a deck full of 1 and 2 mana creatures, Mantis Riders, and burn spells.
Yep.
You don't want to be trying to beat them down with Wingmate Rocks.
Satyr, Wayfinders, and
Corsair of Crewfixes, right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he should accept this role as the guy with the late game, as the guy with inevitability. His sideboard has...
Yeah, Civides can err on the side of having extra removal spells in,
Right.
just to try to make sure he doesn't get run over too fast.
Right, and his sideboard has 3 Ashiok, 1 Farika, 1 Sultai Charm, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 1 Dig Through Time, 2 Drown and Star, 1 Reclamation Sage, 1 Negate, 3 Bioblight.
So he can certainly go more controlling if he wants.
Right. His deck has the ability to be a nice control-ish deck after sideboard for a matchup like this. And if he identifies that that's what's going on, then he could take out something that's more combo-ish, maybe isn't necessary, like Sidisi. That would be a reasonable one if that's the case. Any spot removal designed to stop cheap aggressive creatures would come out, but all this deck really plays is some Murderous Cuts and Hero's Downfalls. So a Hero's Downfall could come out. Probably wouldn't cut Murderous Cut. So I don't think he'll do that much sideboarding. I think he'll bring in a couple Disdainful Strokes, a Negate.
All right, looks like players have examined their opening hands. Let's see if we have a pair of keeps here. Remember, Nielsen was on a mulligan that last game.
Yeah, right.
Didn't slow him down at all.
Yeah, that win was off a mulligan to 6.
Looks like the votes are in. We're mulliganing to 6 again, and a big smile there from Nielsen like, can I please get a break here?
It is exactly what you said, Randy, last game, though. The danger in mulliganing with this deck is that your 6-card hand has a much higher chance of being, virtually unplayable than your 7-card hand. But if he draws a good 6, it's no big deal. there's lots of good ways to, you know, make up card advantage. It's not even an attrition-y matchup to begin with. So, you know, he's not happy in a mulligan because he runs the risk of having a very poor 6. But as long as he can find one like he did last game, he'll play a normal game.
I don't know if I would describe that last game as normal, but...
Well, the ending wasn't necessarily normal,
No,
but, you know...
The way the deck
teasing you,
is
Ben.
designed is you just get to 7 as soon as possible to play Hornet Queen, and then Soul of
Yeah.
+2/+2.
Plan A.
The ending was certainly not normal, but the mid-game of, you know, play a Caryatid, play a Courser, you know, put lands in a play a Wingmate. Okay, it got countered, you know,
Yeah.
a fairly normal game.
All right, so here is the opening 6 now
And it looks
for
fine.
Nielsen, and I think he's kept.
Yeah, it's unspectacular. It's nowhere near as good as last game.
Okay. We're underway here, though. This
Yeah.
is it. This is for all of it. This is for the World Magic Cup title here between these two teams, Greece and Denmark. The winner of this game takes home the trophy. The captain of the team, if it happens to be Denmark, it's Martin Muller. He gets a seat in the World Championship. I mean, so much on the line for these two teams, and it all comes down to a single game of Magic. What's the first play here? Sylvan Caryatid.
So good on the play. Turn 2 Caryatid on the play. He's just so far ahead in terms of mana development.
He can play Sidisi next turn. He can play a whip. There's so much he can do.
Courser and Thoughtseize.
Yes. And no turn play, no turn 2 play yet here for Simon Nielsen. Nothing at all. He just has to play a Scryland and ship the turn back. Hornet Queen off the top for Sidisi. Every draw step matters.
So it looks like
down the
Panagiotis
stretch.
doesn't have a land, so he's going to run Courser to try and find it. Definitely the right play.
He does not find
Swing
it.
and a miss.
Okay, so an opening here for Denmark. And he does have a land, but no play. A pair of Siege Rhinos in hand, though. This could get out of hand quickly if
Still no
Sidisi
land.
does not find that land, and he does not find it here. He's going to have to resort to a Thoughtseize, and let's take a look at what Nielsen's working with here. Pair of Siege Rhinos, whip, 3 Murderous Cut.
Is that a full house?
Yeah. So I think Panagiotis will take Whip, as it's a card his hand can't deal with.
But then he's got to deal with Siege Rhino, Siege Rhino.
Right, but he's got Hero's Downfall to deal with one, and he's got powerful spells to deal with the other one later.
Yeah, it's easier to deal with 2 Siege Rhinos than 4.
Right. Whip would just be bringing them back into play anyway. Whip is not a card you really want sitting in play. The only way you're okay with Whip there is if you have a way to remove it once it hits play. You're not okay with your opponent just having an active Whip in these kind of matchups.
So Safidi's hand you can see is Bile
Bragging
Blight,
matchup,
pair of
really.
Heroes Downfall, so he can deal with both Rhinos, even just with the resources he has right now. And then the long game's locked up for him with a pair of Hornet Queens, at least in the short term here, but he's miles away from those.
Right, and those Murderous Cuts don't line up well against the Hornet Queens. They do line up well against the Coursers, but, I mean, he's got to draw a land to be able to cast them. I don't think...
Yeah.
Oh, this is end of turn, okay.
Yep. Murderous Cut
I like
to
that
kill
play.
the Courser.
Yeah.
I like that too.
He needs a land to start playing Rhinos.
He found it. It was
Wow.
a Plains off the top. Rhino. Bang. Pressure is on Greece. Denmark has made a big move towards becoming World Magic Cup champions in Greece. First, they need to start hitting land drops, but now they're in a weird spot because he wants to use Hero's Downfall.
Yeah.
He also wants to cast a Courser.
It's an easy Hero's Downfall because he knows that Simon has all those Murderous Cuts to kill the Courser.
Yep.
So he would be falling behind had he done that. On
Okay.
the other hand, he's not really falling behind here. He's just trading off his Hero Downfall for
I mean,
Siege Rhinos.
the Rhinos are taking big chunks of life away here, but you're right. The board state, of course, being more important.
Life never matters, right?
We learned that the hard way last game. Another missed land drop here for Savides. What did he draw? Disdain.
Dig.
Oh, it's a dig through time.
This is a big draw step for Simon, actually, because if he
Yes.
can add to the board, Panagiotis is out of Hero's Downfall.
Wow.
Nothing.
He's down to just the Murderous Cuts,
So
I
we're
think.
back to staring at each other. Panagiotis Savides down to 11, but it doesn't look super relevant at
my.
the moment. And there's
Ashiok on an
Ashiok.
empty board? You know your opponent's holding Murderous Cut, Murderous Cut?
Yeah, this
That's
is
a
huge.
nice draw.
This is huge.
Wow.
There's the soul.
Ooh, soul of. Oh, and there's also a potential. What is that? Is that a
Reclamation
reclamation sage?
Sage.
Sorry.
Reclamation
Yeah, no. So that's maybe a soul in a turn or two, and another missed
Land
here
off the top.
for
Ashiok is
Simon
going to get this
Nielsen.
done. Clock is not going to strike midnight on the Cinderella Greeks.
They are in a commanding position now, though many turns away from actually
Yeah, I don't know
winning.
if it's commanding if he can never draw lands, but
Right.
I don't think he needs them.
Well, he's probably going to play the Courser, and then we'll see if he hits the land or not. Actually, if he has Disdainful Stroke, he may just leave Disdainful Stroke.
I think
it's pretty close.
It's a dig through time, not a disdainful stroke.
All right, so I guess you dig because your hand
Dig
is
for
so
land.
good, right, that you dig for land, and you just make your land drops, and then from there you
Hornet
feel like
Queen,
you're...
He has not hit a land
Whip,
yet.
Ashiok,
Okay,
Swamp,
he hit
one land in
out
those
of
7.
those 7
Well,
cards.
This was a close play Courser or dig, and it's a good thing he played the dig, because he was
Yeah.
not going to find land.
Yeah, I mean, he would have traded Courser for Murderous Cut and then done this play next turn, but still.
Yeah. If he didn't have this dig through time, this would have been a really interesting game, as he would have never drawn land, basically. That land was 6 cards
Yeah.
down.
He kept Swamp and Disdainful Stroke.
Yes, he would not. It was the 6th card.
Amazing.
Thoughtseize off the top for Nielsen.
Okay, so that can give him some info and potentially take away something of relevance.
Yeah, I think it's almost info he's not going to want.
Yeah, this is not going to be good news for him. Let's take a look at Savidi's hand here.
Meanwhile, Ashiok just hanging out. No pressure from Simon Nielsen.
No pressure at all, and there's Soul of Innistrad off the top. Again, the late game is in hand well for Savidi's, but he can't cast anything.
Yeah.
So interestingly,
Well, he got to cast his sideboard card, right? Ashiok was in the sideboard for this matchup. He can put the Caryatid into play next turn if he gets desperate enough for mana.
interestingly, he didn't Thoughtseize, right?
No,
Yeah.
he did not.
I think he's waiting until it's time to clear a path for something he cares about.
Yeah, he's got a pair of Murderous Cut and a Thoughtseize in hand. I think you're right.
Also,
Rand.
7 cards. Like, if Savidi's whiffs again, he has to start discarding.
I think that's really interesting. I think a lot of players would Thoughtseize there. But the point is you kind of want to let some things trade off, and then when you can sculpt a game where Thoughtseize is a lot more meaningful, then you go ahead and Thoughtseize.
I do think the 7 cards in hand is relevant, too. He has to discard. Well, he's going to play Courser. But, I mean, if he runs out of things to play on his tight mana,
Yeah,
actually he has to start discarding.
I don't think we'll see that in this game, but I do agree that
It's close. It's close
right.
enough that you might save your Thoughtseize for the turn you want to force something through.
Right, I definitely agree with you. That's a very good reason not to Thoughtseize. If your opponent is stuck on lands and has 7 in hand, you don't want to take something and then they just don't have to discard when they would have anyways. That's a very good point to make.
Speaking of discard, Soul of Innistrad is the discard there for Panagiotis Savidis, as he still can. I mean, he played a dig through time. You're not supposed to miss land drops after you play that card. And he would have taken 2 lands if given the opportunity. He wasn't given that opportunity.
So he's gone way up with this Ashiok. I know he hasn't really had any great things to put in play yet, but do you think he'll tick it up next turn or just put the Caryatid in play?
I'm curious to see if this. So what are Simon's? He has Banishing Light.
Yeah, he has
To kill
Banishing Light, he has
Ashiok?
Murderous Cuts that we
Does
know
he have
are in
any
his
other
hand.
end?
I don't think he has any other end.
I mean, he's sitting on you're right. He's sitting on double Murderous Cut, so
Right.
That's why he
putting
didn't put
creatures
the
into
soul
play
in play.
isn't awesome.
Right, that's why he didn't put the Soul in play, clearly. But I think he would put the Caryatid in play, right? The mana is so huge for him, and he's not going to ultimate it just to kill the 2 Murderous Cuts, I don't
He can
think.
just deck him. Like, you can just plus until the game is over.
He could do that. He could do that. You're only taking 1 turn off from plussing to get the Caryatid, though.
Fair.
It's probably a close play.
I'd definitely be feeling that pressure in Savidi's seat to get it carried and get something going as far as mana.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, it's not like you're burying the Ashiok to put the Caryatid in play. You're just taking 1 turn off from plussing.
Right.
But, decking is very real, so it's certainly a close decision for him.
Time for Thoughtseize.
Nielsen has decided to fire off his Thoughtseize here, and it is a handful of absolute gasoline here. And,
Expensive gasoline, though. This is
it
the premium stuff.
This is premium. Nielsen goes for the
Goes for
flip
style
and
points
kind
with.
and that's going to take Disdainful Stroke out of the equation here.
So does Nielsen just have Murderous Cuts, or did he draw something he wanted to push through, and that's why he's Thoughtseize?
I'm curious, yeah, because if he
I
didn't
think he drew
Thoughtseize
land.
before,
Yeah, I'm not sure what led him to pick this particular turn. Because he's on cut.
Right. It's not a bad Thoughtseize. It's just why fire it off at this moment
Yes.
that we're trying to figure out.
especially when your
Oh.
opponent had just
Ashiok's
discarded.
going ultimate.
Ashiok just went ultimate.
Yep.
And that's
so
why.
Ashiok's ultimate says exile all cards from all opponents' hands and graveyards.
And that's why you Thoughtseize, because the Ashiok
Yes.
could go ultimate. I didn't actually think that would happen. I still don't really love that play, but it's probably correct because it makes Whip a
He
dead
cleared
draw.
a path for Courser. It's been all about getting this Courser. Courser's been rooting for this play the whole time.
Yeah, clears a path for
Still
Courser.
no lands.
It makes Whip a dead draw, so that's nice.
Right.
But you do remove a lot of counters to trade with 2 Murderous Cuts, basically, in a graveyard. Another close play.
Siege Rhino off the top here from Simon
And
Nielsen as he triumphantly slams it onto the table, though. Is it going to be enough here? Panagiotis falls down to 8.
There has to be land in there somewhere.
There's got to be a land in there somewhere, and he just cannot find one, yet he's still ahead, right?
Yeah. He's got stuff he can do.
So back on the trail here for Ashiok, ticking ever upwards. Okay,
I mean,
now
he does
we've
not
got
have a way to kill
2
Siege Rhino.
Not a way to kill Siege Rhino.
So it'll attack
Panagiotis is
Ashiok,
at
right?
8.
Well, maybe not. Maybe I don't know what he'll attack
Ashiok versus...
versus Panagiotis. I mean, he's at 8. He needs
Is that Dune Blast off the top?
It
Wow!
was a Doom Blast off the top.
Wow. He could win this game.
This is huge. Remember, he cleared away the Disdainful Stroke with that Thoughtseize the
Yes.
turn before Ashiok went ultimate.
And that's why he finally picked
And
that
he's
turn to
effectively
Thoughtseize.
Yeah.
killing 2 lands here.
Yeah, this game is up for grabs now.
So he's going to Bile Blight in response just to save damage here?
Yeah, but he doesn't have a Murderous Cut, and we know he's drawing Doomwake Giant, a card he can't cast.
Wow.
Siege Rhino is lethal.
Yeah, well, it's going to get Bile Blighted.
It's getting Bile Blighted.
Right, so he's got another draw step to top deck a Murderous Cut or another removal for it.
But he's got 1 draw step.
Right, 1 draw step.
And it's not the next one. The next one is Doom Wake. It's got to be the next card
But
after that.
if he doesn't attack Ashiok next turn, then he also has Ashiok's +2 to maybe find creatures to put into play.
Sure.
This is
This is going to be very close.
This is very close
Wow.
now.
Dune Blast off the top for Denmark.
Because obviously, if this game goes long, Panagiotis wins. But I
Yes.
think Simon is a favorite to not have this game go long. So I think this is very close to 50-50 now.
Who's the beatdown indeed?
So are they deciding who to attack here?
Yes.
They're going to
Okay.
attack for 1. No, it should be for 1 into Ashiok.
And that's a great play.
Yes.
Because the 1 was meaningless in terms of a clock. It's 2 hits
Jeez.
of 4.
Ashiok goes down in favor of a
Ashiok's
carry
just going to get traded in for a carry added immediately here.
Which is a great play also because it means if he draws a land, he can cast Doomwake Giant.
Attack for 4, has to take it,
Half your
drops
life.
down to 4. That's
Did he draw
half
something
of
this
your life
turn?
total.
What?
He plays a Wingmate Rock.
What just happened?
A land off the top for Panagiotis, but is it too late?
It's
Even
Doomwake
Doomwake
Giant,
may
not-
not save him here. And he extends the hand. Denmark are our champions.
I can't believe my eyes.
Wow.
Denmark wins the World Magic Cup. Wow.
Unbelievable.
He peeled Ashiok went ultimate, and then he peeled Siege Rhino into Dune Blast into Wingmate Rock.
Unbelievable.
3 in a row.
If you had asked me what Panagiotis' chances of winning that game were a few turns before that, I would have said 95% or something.
Unbelievable. He ultimated Ashiok that turn and then just promptly lost.
He dug through time, only needing lands, looked at 7 cards and couldn't find land.
Unbelievable.
That's incredible.
Wow, what a crazy ending to the World Magic Cup. Congratulations to Denmark. They are our World Magic Cup champions here in Nice. And they are in full celebration mode, and why shouldn't they be? Unbelievable stuff, guys. I did not think that that's how it was going to end.
I
was
can barely
awesome.
breathe. I'm like in a complete state of shock.
Yeah, I am too.
Both of those games. Don't forget, the game before was the game where he had exactly 13 with the Soul of Theros activation after the Hornet Queen.
Wow.
Another game that
Unbelievable
Panagiotis
stuff.
was a huge favorite in, and he stole the game with Xaxes. Incredible.
Wow. Incredible stuff from the World Magic Cup. Let's send it over to Rich Hagan at the desk, who must also be in shock.
in the finals of an event.
They said in the booth, 95% Greece win. We've got the graphics ready. They have one hand on the trophy. I'm writing down Bill Chronopoulos to come and have a winner interview. Suddenly, Siege Rhino. Okay, that's step one. It's a stumbling step
So
one.
you're saying he's got a chance.
Yeah, just about. And then Dune Blast off the top. Wow. Is it worth paying 3 extra for Wrath of God these days? Apparently it is.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, he had just ultimated Ashiok and removed Simon's entire hand and graveyard. Just unbelievable. It's an unbelievable series. I had assumed for the last 5 minutes that Greece, it was just a given that Greece was going to be the World Magic Cup champions.
And then when you see Wingmate rock,
Yeah.
I mean, Greece is the home of myth and legend, but that was mythic.
Yeah,
And it
absolutely.
came for Denmark.
Well, Denmark is the home of the World Magic Cup trophy.
It certainly is. What an incredible performance. What a story for the team of four. You've got Martin Müller there as the captain. You have Thomas Enervoldsen, Simon Nielsen, you saw there, deluged by his teammates as he played the winning turn. And of course, let's not forget Lars Birch, the coach in that fight. There you see the four of them. Lars Birch on the left, Simon Nielsen. He looks that happy on Wednesday night, it turned out.
He's quite the character.
He really is. Martin Müller, there you see, second from the right, and Thomas Enervoldsen, the most experienced, on the right-hand side of your screen. That, as I say, that was before a single turn of a single game had been played in the World Magic Cup, and they looked like they were having an amazing time. They were very much, BDM, a team because a team competition, sure, you can just tot up everyone's individual results and see whether that's a win or a loss. But it was very noticeable today out on the floor just how much the teams that were left had embraced team as a concept.
And it was kind of amazing to me is if you roll back the clock about 6 minutes before the tides had turned, and it looks like Greece is just going to win, and there's just uncastable cards in Simon's hand, and just this kind of mounting threat of losing every card in his graveyard and library to the Ashiok. The Greek team is kind of like this. Even though they're in a commanding position, they're white-knuckled.
Oh.
And the Danish team is just laughing. Simon Thoughtseize, which was a huge Thoughtseize. He Thoughtseizes and he takes the disdainful stroke, but then he has to get his pen and he just has to write this laundry list of 6 other cards that are all sitting there in his opponent's hand. And the team and the Danes are just laughing. They're like, "How are we going to beat this?" They're just having a great time. And I was very impressed with their looseness.
Yeah, for sure. Then again, sometimes a grin is the same as a rictus grin. And I am not sure. We'll talk to someone. We'll get someone from the winning team here shortly to find out what they were thinking round about that Thoughtseize time. But let's talk a little bit about the vanquished, the fallen. Sure. Greece. A lot of people were tweeting to us how fitting, with Theros being in standard right now, that ancient Greece are bang up to date at the forefront of this World Magic Cup. They have done an incredible job.
Absolutely amazing. Just fighting back from the furthest back position at each point. They got into day 2 as the 32nd seed, so they're the last spot in the first pod. They fought their way back into the top 16 where they were 15th. They get into the top 8 as the 8th seed. And make it all the way through to the finals. They have been playing hard-fought Magic for every round for the last 2 days.
Incredible stuff. Seems a long time ago that we came on air at 9 a.m. with 8 teams still left standing in the World Magic Cup, and we had some big names. We started off with South Korea against Greece, and it was Greece, of course, who took care of that one. But hats off again, just for making it this far, to Nam Sung-wook, who you might have expected to be at the thick end of a tournament, but he didn't have a team that was packed with global superstars. So a great performance from Nam Sung-wook, one of the 11 players who was in both competitions this week.
Absolutely, and I know he was very excited to be bringing some more South Korean players onto the Pro Tour by virtue of playing today. The whole team, earns invitations to Pro Tour Fate Reforged, and he was very excited about the growth of Magic in his home country.
And there's that thing again about community, and suddenly it's a real kickstart because it's not just a PTQ winner, it's 3 PTQ winners joining them there. So fantastic job there. there, our second quarterfinal, that saw the Slovak Republic up against Team USA, and that looked like a big one, but in the end, it was relatively straightforward for the United States.
Yeah, you know, the United States was able to dispatch the Slovak Republic pretty easily. You know, and this was really the big bout in the quarterfinals. You know, Owen Turtenwald, two-time Pro Tour top 8 competitor, former player of the year. Ivan Flock, a Pro Tour champion. Matej Zadelkai, multiple-time Pro Tour top 8 competitor.
Neil
Oliver, of course, 3 Grand Prix finals finishes. So, you know, these faces you've seen a lot, and they fought, and the United States felt pretty confident in their matchups, and it kind of played out that way.
Let's show you the bracket, then how things played out over the course of the day. So we had South Korea over Greece. We had Slovak Republic over Team USA. That was the top half of the bracket. Serbia against Denmark. The Danes came through. England took care of Brazil. The semi-finals then, we saw Greece and Denmark advance to the final. There they go, Greece through, US through, Denmark through, England through. The semi-finals went, of course, to Greece over USA and to Denmark over England, setting up the final we have just seen. And it's time to congratulate the winners of the World Magic Cup. Let's hand down to the floor for the awards ceremony his tournament manager, Mr. Scott Larrabee.
Welcome to the 2014 World Magic Cup Awards Ceremony. I'm Tournament Manager Scott Larrabee. The finalists of the 2014 World Magic Cup, Team Greece. Another big round of applause for the finalists, Team Greece. And now the 2014 World Magic Cup champions, Team Denmark. Once again, the 2014 World Magic Cup champions, Team Denmark.
Fantastic job. Congratulations to Team Denmark. Someone from them will be in with us here at the news desk very, very shortly. And I know, BDM, what you most want to know, it's not a strategic thing. It's not about team play. It's just about heart rate.
Yes. Yes. Can you imagine hooking an EKG monitor up to any member of the Danish team while they're just going through that, you know, back and forth of, you know, likelihoods of whether or not they could possibly win? At first, it looked very good for them. You know, we had a, you know, there's 2 graphic cards that are prepared in the back that both say champion with the picture of the team. And, you know, we're talking to John who cues us up. And we're like, oh, you're probably going to need the one for Greece. Oh, wait, no, I think you need the Danish one. No.
No, it is Greece.
Definitely going to be Greece. Yeah. Definitely going to be. Oh, you still have that Danish one?
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, I you know, can you imagine? You know, I don't know if I could. I certainly know I couldn't take that stress. I'd probably just fall dead to the table.
I'm also interested. I see that point from the players not playing, but last night there were 24 players who went to bed knowing that one of them was going to be sitting at a table with everything else finished, where one of them was going to be the moment. Turned out to be Simon Nielsen. But as the finals wind down and you see match 1 done, and you're like, okay, we're 1 down or whatever, and you see the second one, you're like, there's only 2 of us left now. Could be me. And then you're into this match where it is me. And these guys, bless them, because of that first game going so long with live totals way up in the 40s and 50s, they knew for a long time. It was just like a World Championship final, but with a crowd.
Right. I mean, even more impressive for Simon. Keep in mind, right, both other matches were done. The 2 teams split the other matches. And then Simon's down a game. He's down a game and has to come back and take 2.
Yeah, and the way he...
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
And the way he won that extraordinary game with just As Ben Stark said, yeah, kind of conventional, not a conventional ending. But then we got ourselves into Game 3, and as we've seen, Denmark are your World Magic Cup champions. Also,
I see a check and a trophy out there somewhere in the dark.
Oh, we should get them in. So we're just moments away from being joined. We'll find out their own words before they get a chance to be too formal. And now, what do you think? They're not listening. Do you think we'll get a very serious, formal, Scandinavian sort of approach to this? And yes, we felt that we had this many outs at this point, and yes, and there you are. Sometimes you get them, or are we going to see huge excitement?
Depends. Are we bringing in? Depends on who we're bringing in. Are we bringing in Martin, or are we bringing in Thomas or Simon?
Martin Mueller has ice in his veins. He is so calm and cool, and it is a great performance by him. Let's remember, he is the team captain, and whatever way you slice how many experienced players you've got around you or how friendly the team is, just the big C on the badge, actually means that you feel that responsibility. Talking to a number of team captains at registration, they were saying they just felt it very, very keenly. So I'm delighted to say that we are just about to be joined. Here they come to the news desk. We have been joined by a World Magic Cup champion.
Yeah, this one too.
Yeah, let's bring it in.
Denmark.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thomas Enervold.
I'll put this right here.
Yeah.
Great, yeah.
Oh, a playmat for us.
Yeah, exactly. Playmats are great. So, Thomas.
Money.
How was your day?
My day was pretty good, Rich.
Yeah?
It was pretty good, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Can't complain.
Okay, going to bed last night, 8 teams left. To what extent did you allow the team to think about this check, those trophies, this lifelong achievement?
I thought about it a lot, actually, because it's never fun to say that you didn't place first at a tournament. So that's the most important thing, is just winning. So I thought about it a lot, actually, but I was trying not to talk too much about it to the other team members, because I was worried they might get nervous. They didn't at all during the day-to-day, but right. I just kept it kind of quiet.
Now, of the 4 of you, you are the player who has stood with a trophy in hand at Premier level.
It was a good feeling.
And it was an amazing tournament itself. You had one of the greatest comebacks ever seen against not 1 but 2 Emrakul when you played with Death and Taxes.
That's true.
So you know that sometimes the cards are there for you and stranger things have happened. But BDM rarely have stranger things happened than the end of that final.
Talk me through your emotional roller coaster in that last game. You Thoughtseize the Greek player, and you look at this hand. I mean, you look kind of like oh my gosh, as he's just writing down this list of cards in his hand. Talk about taking that disdainful stroke, and what the thought, were you thinking about that sequence of cards as your possible out to win here?
I think we'll have to be honest and say that we didn't actually know how we were going to win that game, but we knew that the only way to win that game would probably be to take the disdainful stroke, even if we weren't even thinking about the Doom Blast, just because we thought that's the card that he can actually interact with us with. And then I think we had a moment, I thought it was all over when he Ash-shocked and kept getting more creatures. But when he ulted, I actually thought, all right, well, this is at least a window for us, because then we have a way to sort of get back in the game, because he wasn't at a high life total. And we boarded back into the Rhino plan because we wanted to see if we could race him before his more powerful card took over.
So now you've disdainful stroked. Your confidence is at a low.
Yeah.
You draw your next card.
Well, I gotta say, I didn't even think. I actually thought that top decking a Wingmate Rock would be bad during the game because we never had an attacker. So I didn't. It sort of fell out of my mind that we could draw that card and be completely sure, because he could just draw a land and then play the 4/6, and then we'd be in top deck war with 6 cards. So.
But it was the whole sequence that was so
it was amazing. I couldn't have pieced that together myself.
Like, we open up with a Siege Rhino. Now, once the Siege Rhino comes, what are you feeling there in terms of chances of wins?
Nothing.
Still?
Nope.
No, irrelevant?
I mean, we're always happy with
Finger in the dike at that point.
Like maybe we'll draw 3 more out of the 4 that are left, but, it was the only way to get damage, we thought, at that point, was Siege Rhinos.
Okay, so we have the Siege Rhino. Next up is the most expensive Wrath that won anything ever. Here we go, Dune Blast. Now, what are you thinking when that turns up?
I actually started looking at his hand again. I had sort of forgotten what we wrote down for his hand.
Right.
I just saw, all right, great cards. And then I sort of looked at the board, and all right, 2 of his manas are 0/3. So we can sort of, what can he do next turn? Nothing really. So we kill the Ashok, make sure he doesn't get a guy back. And if he does, at least we can, it's the 0-3 and the Ashok dies, so we don't have to deal with that. And he's on 8, okay, so it's actually just 2 swings. And we just need him to not hit a land again. And I mean, they were really unlucky. They played the search 7 cards. So, you know, it's pretty unlucky that they didn't have a land, but that was our only out at that point.
Sure. And then up comes the Mythic. There's Wingmate Rock.
Yeah, and then it was final. You know, there was no card in their deck left that they could deal with that card.
So at that point, you know.
Yeah.
How long have you been thinking of winning something like this?
I always think about winning something like this. You know, getting first, that's the most important thing. So we, at the start of any tournament, we always think, how's it going to be to win?
What's the reaction from the Danish Magic community been like as you guys have made your way through the tournament?
They've been pretty excited. There's a lot of support back home. Denmark hasn't really done much great things. We kind of get results popping up once in a while, but this is definitely the best thing that Denmark has produced, and yeah, we're really proud of it.
Do you want to say anything to the people at home in your own language?
Yeah, sure. Drenge, vi ruller. Tak for i aften. That's it.
What was that in English, just out of interest?
It was, hey guys, we're on a roll. Thank you.
Awesome.
It's the saying we have back home.
We obviously have room at the news desk only for one, but let's talk specifically about the 3 fantastic teammates that you've spent the last 3 days making history with.
I mean, I knew coming in that Martin was obviously going to be, he's pretty experienced now, even though he's very young. He's had Pro Tours, we've played on Pro Tours before. And
so this is Martin Müller, team captain?
You know, he got the most points, he must be good, right? And I knew Lars from a long time ago. We've been playing together a long time. And then Simon, I played him in the first WMCQ in the top 8, actually, where he beat me. Was fortunate, I guess, because now I got to play with him. I mean, I knew that we actually had a pretty solid team, but I guess I didn't have like super high hopes. I knew there was some strong teams in the building.
Right. So was the expectation coming in? Let's do the best we can, see if we can make it to day 2, and if we make it there, well, then you're into pool play. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, especially this format really allows for I guess smaller nations to compete, because you're always like in these small tournaments. Usually at the Pro Tour, you have to like consistently do well to get to the top 8. But here you can sort of like give away losses at the correct time, both when you're playing best out of 3 for the team, but also in the pool play, because you know sometimes you only need to go 2-1, maybe even 1-2. If your seed was high enough. Unfortunately, we were at the bottom the whole time, so we pretty much just had to win out and get some results.
Yeah, and you certainly did. And your paths crossed with my home country, England, not once, not twice, but 3 times during the weekend. You beat them in sealed. They came back in constructed. Tell us what it's like. You say it's great to win, but once you're in the final, you often see, and we may see this later on, even with the World Championship on the line, you see a slightly more relaxed feel between the 2 players or the 2 teams. Semi-finals, people who go home in 3rd and 4th, wow, that is a come down when you lose the semi-final. So what was the semi-final like? Well,
I had a really good matchup myself, so I was pretty relaxed the whole time, and I knew that if things didn't go too bad for my deck, I would usually overpower him in the late game with the blue-black control deck. We knew that Martin was going to get crushed, so we were sort of relaxed about that too, because it's sort of like you already know the results.
You knew blue-black and blue-black were both heavy favorites, and it all came down to that 3rd match. Yeah. You guys liked your chances in that.
I mean, we did like our chances, even though we lost to them in the Swiss portion, and I guess it was pretty much 50-50. We didn't feel like we had a great knowledge about the matchup or anything. We just, all right, it seems pretty even, and yeah, then we just, you know, I didn't watch much of the game, but I guess we just pulled through.
You certainly did pull through, and in the end, 72 teams became 32, became 16, became 8, became 4, became 2, and every step of the way, Denmark was on the list. Until in the end, there was only one, and it was Team Denmark. Martin Müller, Lars Birch, Simon Nielsen, and Thomas Enervoldsen. Denmark are the World Magic Cup champions of 2014. Thomas, congratulations.
Thank you very much, guys.
Let's get the high five.
Great job. All right, so we're going to do the switcheroo because we are heading for the World Championship very, very soon. But I can tell you that we're just a minute or so away from some very special guests sitting here beside me and a product announcement you will not want to miss. So we will see you in just a moment.